This is a zoetrope, an early form of animation technology that gives the illusion of motion by showing a series of still images in rapid succession. The way this works is that there is a strip where the images are placed inside of a ring. And when you spin the ring around, look! You can't see anything. Well, that's why we have the slits in the side of the paper. If you just look through the slits, you can start to see the animation move. Zoetropes have been around for a long time. In 1866, Milton Bradley created a simple version that was sold as toys to children. And we've seen a lot of different types of zoetropes over the years, including 3D zoetropes. You may notice on these zoetropes, though, there's no slits or cylinders. The way they're effectively creating this animation is still using the same principle, though. Rather than these slits in the paper, they use a camera's frame rate and strobe lights to inactively limit the amount of time we see each cell of the animation, so that we only see it when they're in the proper position. I personally find zoetropes fascinating, a very simple mechanical way of animating things in real time. So, I decided I wanted to make my own. When starting this project, I had two major goals. I wanted to be able to have a zoetrope that had a loopable animation, but more importantly, I wanted to be able to play music at the same time as the animation was running. The first step to making this zoetrope was 3D modeling the parts. I used Fusion 360. There are three main parts of this zoetrope. There are the animation cells themselves, a base that holds the animations, and a stand that will hold the entire apparatus above the needle so that I can play music as the animation goes. This stand went through the most iterations throughout this process. Originally, it was going to be one solid object, but I knew I would eventually 3D print this part, which went through a few different designs, so I could 3D print something that would function as I wanted to.
The next step was to find some animation for the actual cells of the zoetrope. So I went to this site called Mixamo to find a character and some motion capture animation.
Mixamo is a stock library full of animations and 3D characters that you can download and use in any 3D platform. So I grabbed a character and I grabbed a walk style, click download, and I'm going to bring it to Unreal Engine 5 to set up our camera and animate the characters. Our setup is very simple. We have our camera facing our actor from a side profile. I have a green plane that has an emissive material on it, meaning it will be our light source for the scene. If I go through frame by frame, you can see every frame is a different part of this animation. So I exported it as a JPEG sequence, and we can bring it into Adobe Illustrator to prepare everything we need for the laser cut files. Also at this stage, I modeled a quick base for the animation cells to sit in. And I also made a few test cutouts so I can test the size of the holes so I knew they would fit correctly. Now that we have all the parts laser cut and 3D printed, we can now see how they fit together. I'm glad I did those test fits, because if I didn't do the test fits, the holes would have been too big for the animation cells to sit in. The hardest part about this assembly was probably getting the stand right. I got there eventually. I just had to go through a few misprints first. And then it was the process of slotting in each animation cell one by one into their designated spot. And now, it's finally time to put everything together.
We start with our stand, and on top of that, we add our base. But you may notice that we can't see the animation too well. That's because the frame rate of our camera does not match with this animation. Using our camera's shutter speed and increasing the frame rate, we are able to see the animation through our camera. And wow, it's awesome. But I want to see this in real life. In order to do so, we're going to use a strobe light. First, we have to figure out how fast the strobe light's going to be going. We're going to take our revolutions per second of the record player we used. Then we're going to multiply that by the amount of frames that the animation has. If my record player spins 33 times a minute, it will turn 0.55 times a second. And I have 24 frames. If you multiply those two numbers together, you get a strobe light speed of 13.2. So let's set that all up, and let's watch the animation. Overall, I'm really happy on how this project came out. I'm excited to learn more about zoetropes and develop more complex ones in the future. But that's all for now. I've been Robert, and I hope you learned something about zoetropes.